to another Fox News alert. Several dozen House Democrats have now joined the push for impeaching President Trump. The Attorney General William Barr is pushing back tonight on Special Counsel Robert Mueller after he appeared to contradict some of Barr's summary of the Russia investigation. Watch.
He could have reached a conclusion. The opinion says you cannot indict a president while he's in office, but he could have reached a decision as to whether it was criminal activity. But he had his reasons for not doing it, which he explained. And I'm not going to, argue about those reasons. But when he didn't make a decision, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, and I felt it was necessary for us as the heads of the department to reach that decision.
Well, it's all heating up again. Let's bring former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Harry Litman and former CIA analyst Buck Sexton. Welcome to both of you.
Good to see you.
Thanks.
Buck, we've got, I think the latest count is 51 House Democrats that's breaking tonight. It's reached that number, are now saying that to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, we want to see impeachment proceedings move forward at a time when the president today said impeachment is a quote unquote dirty, filthy, disgusting word. Where are we tonight?
Well, this is exactly what I think the purpose of that Mueller press conference was. I think it's quite obvious that it was to revive the issue and put a little more wind in the sails of the pro-impeachment crowd here on Capitol Hill. I also think the Democrats all along have just been looking for the opportunity, despite all the hemming and hawing about how Trump has been so unethical and terrible, but they're not sure they have enough to impeach him yet. If it were that dire a threat to the country and to our institutions, you'd think they would already know that, and they wouldn't be making obvious political calculations of whether they should do this. And look, I think that Mueller, in a sense, might have done Trump a favor, because anybody who was on the fence before about whether Mueller was acting like a partisan in this process, I think that's been put to rest. He said that the report speaks for itself. Well, then why is Mueller speaking to us 6 weeks after the report came out to tell us things that we didn't need to be told? He said that, that they couldn't prove that he was innocent, turning centuries of American jurisprudence on its head. That's not the way it's supposed to go. You have a presumption of innocence. The most important point here being that Barr said he could have made the call and should have made the call. He didn't do that as a tactic to turn this over to Congress for impeachment. That's exactly what he wanted. That's what he's getting.
Let's get Harry in here. To Buck's point, Harry, John Podhoretz has this piece in the New York Post today saying, among other things, that this was a disgraceful mess by Robert Mueller. The "I couldn't exonerate him" point is discomfiting for another reason, which is, since when do prosecutors exonerate people? That is not a prosecutor's job. Maybe in the aftermath of a wrongful conviction with irrefutable physical evidence, prosecutors will say something exculpatory. But even in the most of these cases, they usually drop charges on grounds of insufficient evidence, not positive proof of innocence. What say you, sir?
Yeah, so actually that's dead wrong, and Buck's dead wrong. They do it every day. What they don't necessarily do is publicize it, but Barr decided, and I think with good reason, to publicize it. But we had an inquiry where Justice Department rules and their constitutional interpretation left an actual judgment of guilt off the table. So all that was left to say is, well, we couldn't exonerate. And if you look carefully, including at the report, it's pretty clear that the conduct that Mueller has found is obstruction any day of the week, any court in the land, any other person except the president. Finally, this broadside against Mueller's integrity is out of fantasy land. Nobody who knows Mueller in Washington of any party, and he's a lifelong Republican, credits the notion that he's somehow a partisan.
Well, there are a lot of Republicans that obviously don't like President Trump. I mean, on this notion that exoneration is the standard, that would be news to the 3 other former DOJ officials I've spoken to in the last 24 hours who all say that this is novel at best, and unethical, I think, is a much more apt description for it.
100% wrong.
Well, that's exactly, I mean, you can keep saying wrong, but your explanation for why it's wrong is not compelling.
Point, then, Harry,
and I would just say that the claim that obstruction is so obvious, if it's so obvious, then why didn't Mueller say he broke the law? The reason is because if he had actually picked one of the 10 possible counts, or one of the 10 possible instances, I should say, then people could repudiate it and say, that's a stretch. And the DOJ would have a fight over it. He didn't want that to be adjudicated. He wanted it to go to Congress because it's a political hit. It's obvious to everybody else.
Go ahead. Give Harry
two quick points. First, he did, in fact, point it out. I don't think you've read the report, Buck, but look at pages 84 to 87 of Volume 2. It will tell you in chapter and verse. And he gave the reasons. And the reasons, ironically, he was bending over backwards to be fair to Trump.
That's right. I agree. Everyone in this process wants to be fair to Trump. That is a fantasy. That's a fantasy.
All right, let Harry finish his point. Go ahead.
He specifically said he could have gone the other way, as Barr said, and I agree. He, for reasons of fairness, didn't go there, and yet he left no doubt. If you actually read and look at just seasoned prosecutors, nonpartisan, it's an overwhelming case for obstruction.
Well, the president certainly does not think this has been a fair process.
It's overwhelming that he couldn't find
well,
one
the
charge to
president
actually
doesn't.
bring.
I agree with
Right.
that.
Harry, Buck, appreciate you both coming in.
Thank you.
Fantasy
Thanks,
stuff.
Buck.